I started off, I guess, as a banker and sort of found my way into Hong Kong and got a job as a wealth manager. I ditched that and went into recruitment, then started my own company. What you don't really get to know is that it's my third company and my fourth business. So the first one I started, like Andrea said, from scratch. I started with £10 and sort of just developed it. Second one didn't really take off. So the third company now is the one I'm working on, but it's the fourth business. So we've had two business models in between. I'm a believer that if you have a passion for something, you want to do it, you just drive yourself forward. Um, what I've chosen to do is only based on the fact that I saw an opportunity and I took it. It wasn't something to do with some dream or passion. I worked in a coffee shop when I was an undergraduate, and that was about it. Motivation, I'm not very good as a corporate person. I just wouldn't. I worked at a bank, a HSBC. I just wouldn't hack it there. So trying to sum myself up in 5 minutes about why I'm an entrepreneur is, and I've failed and tried again and started and failed a little bit and started again, is because I think it's a lifestyle I want to spend the rest of my life committing to. Um, and for me, it's just a journey that I want to go on. And what I choose to do or not do is almost reflective of the opportunities that come before me and how I wish to pursue myself. But I'm here in Hong Kong 5 years now, and I love the business. It's tough. Hopefully, I can probably give you a few pointers in what you decide to do if you choose to go ahead and start something. And like Andre said, I believe in bootstrapping, believe in taking a little bit of cash, a lot of risk, and you grow slowly. I think it was Al Capone who said that he'd rather get $1 from 100 people than $100 from one person. It's just little by little from here to there is how you grow slowly. I think that's almost 5 minutes, but so yeah, your question.
Excuse me, maybe I don't know the ideas you worked out, but what were your companies you worked on? Like
Oh, the first one, I train as a teacher, so I started a tutorial business. Um, I needed some cash, and so I decided that I was going to use a little bit of money I had left over after paying my rent. This was back in London in 2005, 2004. I bought some ink for my printer, printed out some leaflets saying I can run a tutorial business so I can teach your kids. Went to University College London. I was doing my second master's there. Printed off the leaflets, used a guillotine, cut them up, and I had to advertise. So I had no money for advertising. So the best thing I could do was get up every morning at 5 o'clock and go through all the houses and apartment blocks around Chelsea, where I lived, and put them through the letterboxes, because when parents go out, let's say at 7:30, they would see it first thing in the morning with the milk and the newspaper. So I'd do that every day for 2 weeks till eventually I got my first phone call. And the guy said, "Do you want to come in and teach my son?" And yeah, okay. And of course, as I kept on doing it, getting up at 5 every morning and going and delivering all those things, more people called and I got more work than I could handle, and I had to then employ more people. So that was the first one. Second one was an investment company. I took an interest in alternative investments, and I left my banking job during the financial crisis, so just before it. Decided to actually work on that, and it didn't really go anywhere. It didn't really have legs. And an ex-girlfriend got a job in Singapore, and I sort of followed her. She gave me a business class ticket, and I said, "Why not?" It didn't really get on very well, but the lure of coming to Asia and having someone pay the airfare and the hotel bill for 2 weeks was enough for me to get on the plane. And I came here, I fell in love, and I haven't been back since. It's going on 5.5 years. And so that second one didn't really take off. The third one was just, I got here and saw the energy in Hong Kong and how everyone wanted to do their own thing. And I saw a lot of people just starting things up. And I thought, boom, I can do this. And I did, inadvertently. But I don't think I've answered your question about the supermarkets, have I? Or have you?
no, it was I didn't
So right now
concept of like you introducing yourself. So I
Oh, okay.
asked a question about your supermarkets. That's why. But
Okay.
now your third thing is about supermarkets chain. You
Yes. It was an accident because I actually. Here's the thing. I love reading. I read everything, even the ones in Chinese, and I know I can't read Chinese, but I would look at a magazine, or if it's in London, written in Arabic, I'd look at magazines. I love reading everything. So I'm coming down by the Macau ferry, and I see a flyer, a lady giving out a flyer, and of course I want to pick it up and see what it is. And there's a Macallan's whiskey, it's pretty high-end whiskey, being sold at a pretty low-rate supermarket called Dow Chung, DCH. And I thought, wow, okay, maybe I could put my coffee in there. So I literally sort of called up the supermarket and said, I'd like to find out how to list my product in your store. I had no idea, I had no inkling that I could possibly do this. Called them up. They then replied, the buyer that's there replied and simply told me these are the criteria you have to meet. I had an intern at the time, and he had his dissertation in coffee futures last 10 years. He came back from Canada and wanted to work for me, and I was really impressed. But I actually liked what he did, and he liked what I was doing as well. So he sort of spearheaded the negotiations, and it nosedived, I think, due to the fact that it was just too expensive. But I thought, if it's easier to list in a supermarket, why don't you go to a bigger one? Which is kind of contradictory, isn't it? If I couldn't afford the cheaper one, why do I want to go to the bigger one? But I just like challenges, so I called up a couple, we got nowhere. And again, I was walking through a supermarket one day, thinking of the first supermarket I went to and some of the conditions they placed on me, which is actually putting stuff on a stack instead of on the shelf, which is cheaper. And this supermarket manager, the store manager there in Park and Shop, excuse me, I actually used to carry a sample of my products around with me, smaller bags. And I showed it to him, and I said, look, I'm thinking of getting a floor stack for this product. Can you tell me what sort of dimensions I need for it? And he said, oh, you know what, we can actually do with something like this. So he gave me the name of a store manager for the store in Stanley. And he happened to be an English guy, well, actually a Welsh guy. And then I called up the Welsh guy and said, by the way, I pitched it to him. And before I knew what's going on, he said, actually, I really like this product. He called me into the store, I showed him the samples, and he said, well, I'm going to send it to headquarters and actually try and get it approved for just his store. And that's how it went. Headquarters approved it for one store and thought it's a waste of time to do all this work for one, let's do it for 6. And so they put it into 6 stores. But it was literally, it was sheer luck, but not just blind luck. You keep probing and pushing and prodding to try your luck. And I was ballsy enough, I guess, to say, look, I want this product in there. I wasn't thinking how much it's going to cost me, etc. I mean, even when I went to the interview to meet the buyer, and I literally sat down as a Chinese guy, middle-aged. I mean, he just looked at me, and I could tell that this is not going to go well. So I sat down, and I talk very fast, and I pitched for about 20 minutes. It's this, it's that, and it has all these features, because then we had drip bags, not just coffee beans. So I actually showed him the versatility of the drip bag and how convenient it could actually be for consumers. He just looked at me, and I thought it was not going well. And the next thing I knew, he said, well, these are the terms. And I nearly fell off my seat. I was like, really? He said, yes, we're going to take 30% of whatever you sell. Once it passes QA, the quality assurance, it can go onto the store shelves. And I was bowled over. Sort of, do you have a business registration certificate? And I'm like, yes, I do. Do you have this? Yes, I do. Da, da, da. All the things that he asked for, the standard documentation you need, I already had them. And it was just a matter of just sailing through. But I look back on it now, and I ask people, what does it mean to get into the store? And they all tell me it's really difficult. You pay a lot of money. You have to go through a lot of, you either bribe this person or you kind of know that person. It's a relationship here or there. But I haven't bribed anyone, I haven't paid anyone, I couldn't afford to pay anyone. I just literally asked, knocked on doors, and persisted. Starting the coffee business in 2012, May 2012, and actually finding the leaflet in October 2013.
Oh, you already had the coffee?
Yes, I already had the
So
coffee.
how come that came about? Like,
Okay. I started, I said it's my fourth business, not but third company. So this third company, the first business was actually a website where we'd actually offer free events to people. To basically, it's an informative website, and we then created software or tools to help with recruitment, because I used to be a recruiter, and I thought, how would I use this to make my work a lot easier? That wasn't going too well. I was throwing in money like there's no tomorrow, development cost, etc., etc. And I was just basically sinking all my cash into this thing. And I wasn't making any money out of it, so I was really running out of cash. Ended up having to sell my first home just to basically make ends meet. So an ex-girlfriend, she saw a program on ATV, or I can't remember, one of the Chinese channels. And she said to me, you know what, I need to get some Blue Mountain coffee. Can you get me some? Ask your dad. And she really wants it, etc. I'm like, oh yeah, yeah. She talked about opening up a coffee shop. She studied in Australia, came back, and wanted to open a coffee shop. And I said, don't be stupid. Just go and you studied accounting, go and get a proper job, and don't be messing about with coffee shops. You're better than that. Ironic, isn't it? So I called up a family friend, got a couple of bags of Blue Mountain coffee, had them DHL'd over, and gave it to her. But I had some left over, and I sold it to some friends. And I was amazed at how much it cost me and how much I was selling it for. And then you start to, simple arbitrage. And I'm looking at it, it's a simple commodity, but the difference is DHL of 4 days. You're buying it at one price and you bring it over and you're selling it another, and the only cost to you is the transport cost as well as the cost of goods sold. I thought, wow, did it a few more times, and all of a sudden I'm thinking, this could really work. And then I kind of left the internet thing. I let it die down a little bit. I was actually bringing more coffee in and selling it, and bringing more coffee in and selling it. This is like taking candy from a baby. This is so good. So I think very shortly afterwards, I had a friend who'd come to me saying that she'd left her old job, which was, she was a charity, these charity guys and girls on the street telling you to fill out a form, and that she now started working for this new company where they do online discount sales, like a kind of Groupon. And I hadn't really used Groupon. I'm not very good with the internet, kind of old-fashioned. Rarely used Groupon, didn't really know about these sort of like group buying sites. And she said it's called Gaigon Zone. It's a Chinese group buying site. And I looked at it and thought, oh, okay. She wanted me to put a product up there because she kind of knew that I was doing coffee. But then I thought, you know what? If she's offering this to me, who are her competitors? And then I sort of did a little bit of research and found all the competitors to this little relatively unknown website. And I called all the competitors and said, look, I've just been offered a deal with this company. Would you be interested in my Blue Mountain coffee? And they got back to me and had like a small bidding war, saying, yeah, we'll try it. It's not really been online. I think I was one of the first people in Hong Kong to actually start doing that, as in original Blue Mountain coffee on a group buying site. So Groupon got in touch with me and said, come and see us. So I did. I walked in, and this is actually how I started my business with no money. I don't think you can do it now because things have changed, but you go to Groupon and you say, I have this wonderful bag of coffee, or have this wonderful product. They look at it, and if they like it and they think it's going to sell, that's all they need, just that one bag to take pictures. And they then go online and sell it. Huge amounts. You've probably bought stuff from group buying sites before. But from the merchant side of things, I have not spent a penny, a dollar. I've not been charged anything. I'm not expected to pay anything. And once it's sold, I don't know, I think the first time we did the deal, we sold about 400 bags. Groupon pays me 50% of the sales up front. within 4 days or 5 days. I take that money, then go and buy the product, ship it in, like I'd been doing before, and deliver it to Groupon, and in the next 30 days, I get the other 50%. So what is my risk? Nothing. Yes?
So actually you're sourcing the product, repackaging, and sell it.
Not even repackaging.
No.
Oh, it's literally just get DHL comes in, I just take it to them.
It's not,
It was
there's no
basically,
branding on it? Like your brand or your...
no, nothing.
Oh.
That's literally how I started.
You're actually a trader then? Or?
Precisely. It was, I was just always cash flow positive. I mean, I could take anything to them. I could take them dog shit and say, this is going to really sell. They'll put it online, sell lots of it, and give me the money up front to actually go and buy that dog shit for them and bring it over. So I just did it over and over and over again, and then I'm on camera, I should be careful. Did it over and over again to different websites. Did it in Finland, was almost doing it in Australia. So I just repeated the model. But I eventually wanted my own brand. So go on.
Excuse me, didn't they ask, like Groupon, I can presume they have a lot of inquiries from people who want to sell something on their platform. Don't they ask something about your credibility or your background? Can you
See?
say like, here's coffee, put it on your
Exactly. Put it this way. If I came to you and tried to sell you Chinese tea, well, how do you feel? As opposed to me, a black guy, come to sell you Jamaican coffee. You buy from people, don't you? So this black guy comes up to them and says, I'm Jamaican and I've got good supply of Jamaican coffee, which is relatively good quality in terms of in the coffee world. There's a credibility thing here. And of course, I'm sorry to say this, but we're in Hong Kong. There's also stereotyping. It can be good, it can be bad. You know, you might want to say it's racism, but call it what you will. But there's stereotyping. And so it worked for me. It does often work against me here, but in this case it worked for me. And so they just like, yeah, no problem, as long as you're a registered business, we believe you can get us Jamaican Blue Mountain coffee. And so it worked for me. Just like I think I was telling someone earlier on about my rather late night with a friend who was talking about bringing in, had a friend last night and we were sitting and talking till the early hours of the morning. She's talking about a couple of business ideas. She's a Russian girl. She's talking about getting Russian caviar, creating these like socks online with prints, etc., or creating a clothes business online. And I said, listen, it's a no-brainer. You're a Russian girl. I would buy caviar from you before buying socks or clothing online. Why? Because people buy from people first. And it's more credible for you to be telling me that you're bringing me red Russian caviar and you know a lot about it than for you to be telling me about socks. I don't know, but anyway.
We are both Belgians. Do you need some Belgian chocolate?
You know, it does work sometimes. Think of it, Hong Kong is saturated with wine. If someone came to sell you Bordeaux wine and he was from New Zealand, do you see what I mean? It's almost an intuitive thing where we work on stereotypes. I mean, that's the psychology of our makeup. We make sense of the world based on a schema that we develop over the years of, I don't know, growing up. So why try and work against it? But sometimes you think out of the box and you try and do things differently, but it's a business. I want to sell you a product or a service. I'm not going to try and understand your way of thinking. I'll rather accept it and work with it rather than try and work against it.
We are group.
Yes.
One, you did ask a question about marketing and media. So since you just mentioned about the buying from people, I was reading an article about you on South China Morning Post some time ago. Talks about to get credibility, you hung 13 certificates on the wall when you were trying to do business, and sometimes they kind of rejected you. So even though it was buying for people, it was a little more than that, right? To make that the connection with the suppliers and retailers to sell things. And if you did not have your academic and educational and career background, how do you think will you be able to do the same thing that you managed to do with the coffee business in Hong Kong? Market yourself in the same way?
So you have to repeat that question again, but slowly so I can try and follow you. Talk about the article, got that part. Now, just repeat the question again.
Talks about to show them your integrity and your ability you had, certificates to prove yourself, kind of.
Yes.
So if you did not have that background, do you think you'll be able to achieve the same thing with your education, with your career background? Do you think you'll be able to achieve the same thing in Hong Kong? And if you didn't have that, what would be something different that you could have done?
Okay. That's interesting because the certificates have actually never worked for me since leaving the finance world. I don't think anyone, I mean, it may sway someone to talk to me, but it's only after, like, for example, you go online and you find something. But other than that, no one's ever asked me whether I actually have any training in coffee, which Andre said earlier on. I didn't know a lot about coffee. I'm a businessman. And no one's ever asked me if I have any business training or whatever. I've never said, oh, by the way, I have this and that and that and that, and that's why I can sell you coffee. No. So your question being, without that, would I still go ahead and do this? That's a difficult one because I think one of the last things my professor said to us when we were graduating from as undergrads, he called us all in and said, you've had this wonderful Cambridge education. It does so much for you in the world. It will open doors, etc. They give you the spiel. But the one thing she said, which has stood with me since then, is that the only thing this degree is worth is that it teaches you how to think for yourself. Whether you read maths, English, politics, music, medicine, etc., your Cambridge degree is designed specifically to teach you how to think and reason for yourself. And that is the most important thing you should take away with you when you leave. And that was it. And that's something I think I still regurgitate. I'll come to you in a second. That's something I still regurgitate in my mind, where I understand that it's more important about thinking and reasoning for yourself. And that is the best education you need. So if I don't have certificates, I think I'll be able to think and reason for myself, be able to go ahead and look at something. Sorry, go ahead.
Hi, sorry. I was just wondering, what are your degrees and what you get? You said you had 2 masters.
First undergraduate at Cambridge, master's at Cambridge, UCL masters, chartered member of the Securities and Investment Institute, part qualified. God, I can't remember all of them. They're about 18, 19. I can email them to you if you want. So, they meant sweet FA to me now. Sorry, gotta watch that. Go ahead.
You're talking about like joining the group buying system, like Groupons or things.
Yeah.
But they usually sell things at a great discount. For example, if the coffee bag you wanted to sell was 400 Hong Kong dollars, then probably they was only sell it for like 170. So does that affect your sales? And what do you do to maximize the profits?
I like the way you think. You actually looked at the numbers. Bag of, it's a trade secret here, so I'm going to be careful what I say. A bag, a 4-ounce bag, which is 113 grams of Blue Mountain coffee, currently goes for $400, maybe $5. Do you drink coffee?
No.
Okay. Now Groupon will do it at a discount. What people, how do I put this without incriminating myself? I was actually buying it at a fraction of that. And even with a 50% discount, I was still making money because I was buying it from source.
So the source is much lower than even when they're having discounts.
Yeah. I mean, I was buying it for something like $40. But then the thing is, actually, I went straight to Jamaica to buy the coffee there. Most people would just not want to deal with Jamaicans. And who actually own coffee shops here, mainly the Chinese. And they're not going to pick up the phone and call a guy who's going to say, "Oh, wagwan, man." They just don't. I could do that and say, look, call my cousin and say, go down there and actually find the cheapest coffee you can get, as long as it's certified Jamaica Blue Mountain. And it's like, it gets $40. Send it over to me. Even at a 50% discount, I was still tripling my money. So, yeah, I'm happy to give you discounts.
Didn't you have to scale it to get this price?
No, that was actually the price when I was just getting like, I don't know, 10, 15. It's slightly cheaper now because I have a license from the Jamaican government. So that means that I actually buy the raw beans. When I started, I was already extrapolating in my business plan, which was I became a distributor for a company and I got it at that price. I didn't just go to them and say, please send me 4 bags. I did what all of you should do if you're living in Hong Kong. If you talk to foreign businesses and you tell them you can get them to China, they have wet dreams. They salivate at the prospect of coming into this huge market. And so the moment I said, look, I'm thinking of buying your coffee and I'm thinking of taking it to the Chinese market, Greater China. They're like, please take me. What do you want? And so I said, I want a distribution agreement for 1 year, exclusivity. And they're like, well, we may not be able to give you exclusivity, but we'll give you distribution agreement. And that's all you do. So they really do drop their pants. They lower the prices down for you. Yeah, you just tell them you want to take them to China. They will do whatever it takes.
That's interesting when you said the exclusive rights, because I was just thinking about, I mean, we're moving towards a society where often, like this trader secret that you have, like, like that you said you can't incriminate yourself, that, you hold certain amounts of money for yourself, like when you do deals. Like, is it not that, like, with Groupon or something like that, that they can be, talking to the people directly, like, like discard you as the middleman, because there's so many, like, because there's perfect information nowadays, like there's so many ways of actually, not trade anymore, because, like you can look up all the competitors, like, they're doing it for way cheaper. So my question is that, do you think that, is this a sustainable business model? Because, more and more people are going to maybe look at this market, like, I'm going to be selling coffee beans now too. Like, does it not scare you at all, or do you think it's not going to be saturated soon?
I'm nearly 40. I'll be 40 next year. Actually, I'll be 40 this year. And I grew up without the internet. So when I got, I started off with floppy disks or whatever. What I'm trying to say is, I think there is a misconception that just because you have the internet, everything's so much closer. Yes, it is, but no, it isn't. People still do business the old way. So there is what you said, I think the term was perfect information or perfect markets or something. No, not as you think. I mean, there are still arbitrage opportunities out there. There's always an opportunity. There's still opportunities where you can actually go in and get information, get products at a huge rate discount if you actually find them. Is it a sustainable business model? There are people that are probably going to go into Jamaica and try and find something, find the same product at the same price, I guess. But it shouldn't deter you from actually running a business. We've evolved from that to sell beer now. So we started off with coffee, and I knew I wasn't going to be selling coffee for the rest of my life. It was an opportunity I took, and I said, you know what, I could build something on this. So when I created my first business plan, I actually had a lot of things that I was going to be looking at. So it's not just Jamaican coffee. We also have Indonesian coffee, that's Kopi Luwak. We looked at the 3 most expensive coffees in the world. We looked at capsules, which we got approval for. We looked at flavored coffee. We thought of the growing coffee demand in China. If you read some of the Euromonitor international reports, you look at trends, you start to prepare yourself for that curve. And then we brought in beer. You're slightly evolving, but you just need that competitive edge, something to get you started. If I had to do it all again, I'd do that. I'd find an arbitrage position, take advantage of it, and then build on that.
Do you think this could have been possible to do in Europe? Because, I look at a lot of these business opportunities, like, the coffee and stuff. Maybe it's just because it just wasn't here yet. Like, do you think that it's really like, a lot of the success is because, we were strategically positioned here in Asia? Do you think that's a big contributor, or could you start this in the US and Europe as well?
I guess if I had sat down and looked at, and I'm from London, looked at the market, I think I could find something, and it probably won't go in because I have a relentless search for a gap in the market, but it may come to me later on where I'm just sitting down thinking, I'm like, oh shit, this actually doesn't exist, or this is lacking, or there's a huge demand for this, but you can't get it here. I mean, here's an example, or even political changes. Walking along the streets one night near my apartment, must have been 1 a.m, coming back from the office, and I saw this girl walking around taking pictures at like 1 o'clock in the morning. I mean, Hong Kong's pretty safe. She's a white girl. And I kind of looked at her, just said, you know what, it's 1 a.m, what are you taking pictures of? Street signs. I said, oh no, this is my first time in Hong Kong. I'm here for a trade show, and where were you from? Russia. Oh, really? What do you sell? She sells chicken feet and pig's trotters and pig's intestines from Russia, container loads to the Chinese. But it's illegal to sell it directly to China, so it comes through Hong Kong. And I thought, pretty interesting. But at the same time, the Europeans actually started putting embargo on Russia. So my brain just started working. And I was thinking, okay, so you've got this problem where you can't even get simple groceries from Europe into Russia. But what about Australian products coming through Hong Kong into Russia? Or something, your brain just starts to work. If you're looking for something, opportunities, you can find it. And so we were talking about so many things. Okay, you know what? Give me a list of whatever's been banned, whatever is now on the embargo list or whatever it was, and let's see if I can source it somewhere else. Okay, it's just simple trading, but I mean, that's an example. People, if you're looking for opportunities, what's that phrase? Necessity is the mother of invention. Remember that. I mean, what do you need that you can't get? And it's not just a product, it may be a service. Necessity is the mother of invention. Think about that carefully. And there will still be opportunities out there. And then slowly build on it. And then eventually you might, you'd stabilize, you'll get to the point where you stop putting out fires in your business, because that will happen. And it just goes on an even keel, and you move and progress slowly and carefully. But I think there are opportunities out there. If not, there's always a way of doing something better and cheaper than the other person. Whatever it is. It doesn't have to be new, but you can do it better and cheaper. Yes.
I want to know, could you tell us the differences of the lifestyle you have in different stage or period of your career or the entrepreneurial journey?
Oh. Damn. I think I was telling someone this. When I my career, as a student, I was actually a poor student. I really couldn't afford my university fees. In fact, when I got in, my mother, bless her, she's still alive, I got my place at Cambridge, and it was my fees were about £8,000. That's 1998, so you can imagine £8,000, £9,000. I was a foreign student. My mother gave me £120, that's all she had, and said, go to university. I'm like, you've got to be joking. She prayed for me, put some olive oil on my head and prayed over me and said, all I've got is £120, go to university. So I knew I wasn't going to get me very far, and I said, you know what? I'd applied to Oxford and Cambridge 3 times, and I got in on my 3rd application, because I was determined to go no matter what. So I said, if in my life I know that I can want something and keep applying and get it, that's good enough for me, even if I can't afford to go there. So I got on the train from London Euston to Cambridge, £120, a small suitcase, and turned up. They gave me my room. They put your fee slip in your pigeonholes, a little box that you have like a locker or something. And freshman week or freshers week, and yeah, blew all the money up, blew the money, went out with friends, drinking, partying, etc., as you do. And I was running out of money, so I had enough for my train fare back. And I went to the interviewer who interviewed me. He's actually one of the lecturers in my department, biological sciences. And I said to him, look, I've got to go because I don't have any money left and I can't really afford to be here. But I wanted to thank you for the opportunity because, you know, I've been applying and you saw something in me and you actually let me, you made me the offer. Because I literally went in, had the interview, and he said, we're going to make you an offer and you'll get it in the post. So his name was Dr. Michael Rice, he's now Professor Michael Rice. I really thanked him and said, you know, I've got to go. He said, you know what, stay. Just go back to your room, keep coming to lectures, and we'll work something out. And that's when I got a scholarship to continue. And then I was homeless while I was a student. So you're talking about all the periods of my life, sleeping in hostels, sleeping on the street while I was a student, and still trying to get to lectures. So that was a low point. Things got a little better, but I remember boxing for my university, and you get what they call a Cambridge Blue, which is a blazer. I couldn't even afford my own blazer, and I won 3 blues. I just couldn't afford to buy one, not at £300 for a green jacket. So then I left university and started working. No, I left and I started the first business, and things started moving really well, and money was in the bank. I could sleep well at night. I mean, actually, there's contentment when you're in control of your life and things are going well. So there was a high there, then a low for a while, then another high, then I joined the bank, and it was nice, you know. I bought 2 Mercedes Benzes and bought 2 houses. There wasn't a problem with money. I left the job to start another business. Big mistake. That company didn't go very well. You start to lose money going to your savings, and then, you know, there's a lull again, then you come back into Hong Kong, and you're an expat here, and you've got a nice salary, a nice job. You're in Lang Kwai Fong every other night. Doesn't matter how much you spend. You know, you've got some left in the bank. You're having a good time. You've got friends, or you think they're friends. So you are now back in employment. Everything's all good. You love it in Hong Kong. Life's wonderful. I live in a hotel. I don't even bother having an apartment. It's a hotel I live in, and do that for 2 years. And then you decide to start a business again. Big mistake. But this time, there is a sense of fulfillment. If you take this path, I don't promise you riches. I don't think anyone should. But there's one thing you're guaranteed of. You're guaranteed of your freedom. And I see people around me, and I wake up every day knowing what I want to do and why I want to do it. And I think the money will come. Be passionate about what you want to do. Enjoy it. It will get there. You will get there. Just don't give up. So it's a little better now, and you can see a projected cash flow. We've got products in stores. Turnover is relatively okay, but we want to grow slowly. I don't have a bank loan. I didn't go and get huge money from here or there, anything. I just started a little and plowed it back in, and took some out again and plowed it back in. I wouldn't swap it for something else. I'm really happy being an entrepreneur because I don't know, Simon Webb, was he here? Yeah, did he talk about the Matrix? Yeah, exactly. If he said that to you, then you understand. I'm not plugged into the Matrix anymore. The fact that I control my life. I may make shit decisions, and I sometimes do, and I fuck up quite a bit. But I wake up every morning knowing fully well that I control what I want to do with myself. And that you can't beat that. You can't beat that. And someday the money will come in.
Is that why you left your job at the bank then? Is that element of control? You couldn't control what you want to do. Someone had to delegate, the work to you. You had to kind of submit yourself to an employer.
It was actually bloody boring at the bank, to be honest with you. People make out that you go to university, you get a job, and it's all going to be great. When you start working, you'll be doing something repeatedly, day in, day out, for a very long time. And if you have any modicum of aspiration, you will get bored with your job. You will probably keep it because you have a family, you have commitments, etc. But very few times do you say, if it's very well paying, I love it so much, it's amazing, it's this, it's that. Very few people say that about their jobs. But they know they have to keep going because they've got to pay their rent, etc. So my job wasn't really that interesting. I mean, I had to read banking regulations. So my first week at HSBC they gave me a booklet, it's about 500 pages. Said you've got 2 weeks to analyze it because there's a problem with our banking systems and we want you to find out what it is and if it's in line with the UK banking regulation. So I'm sitting there for 8 hours, 9 hours a day reading through copious amounts of boring banking stuff and then wrote a report afterwards, which I had to submit to management. You know, and it was just boring. I love what I do now because every day is a challenge, every day is different. And you have a longing or a thirst for what you can achieve because you basically conceive it in your mind and you start to work towards it. If you get a normal job and these big companies might seem glamorous to you, and they probably will be when you're, not even when you're very high up, you go and work and you find out whether you love it so much. It's just repetition, repetition, repetition. I can now say, you know what, I think that strategy is wrong. I'm going to utilize half the stuff I learned at university or in life and say, let's come up with a new strategy. I can create my own marketing plan, but by doing research and thinking, actually, that's going to work and that's not going to work. I don't have to write up someone else's marketing plan. I can create up financial models that I think will look good. I can decide what flavor of coffee I want, or for example, we now sell beer. I literally got on the phone, called the manufacturers in Jamaica. Mind you, we sell Red Stripe beer, which is owned by Diageo, the world's largest drinks manufacturer. Got on the phone, called Desnos and Geddes, who actually own Red Stripe, and said, I want to be your distributor for Asia. And they said, oh yeah, you can do for Hong Kong. I'm like, no, I don't do that kind of game. If you have to give me Hong Kong, China, and Macau because of parallel trading, I don't want to spend my time and money investing in this region only for someone else to try and screw me over by seeing what I'm doing and then replicating it in China. So you've got to give me the entire region or else forget it. And I give you one guarantee, I can get you in a store in 6 months. And they're like, okay. They gave me exclusivity. I'm a one-man band. I have an exclusivity for a global brand for 1.3 billion people. I talked my way into it. And I delivered on the promise. We launched the beer in 2 weeks ago, and we spent $4,000, no more than that, launching a global brand. Started small. I didn't spend millions. I just basically pitched to the buyer, pushed it through, and then delivered the whole thing myself. Every day I was going around. In fact, I've got delivery staff to this. Go and deliver cases of beer to different stores, and that was our budget. So, go on.
How is the market with such low risk not completely saturated?
How is the market with?
How is this a market with such little risk? Because you don't have to spend much, not completely saturated.
Why is it not saturated? I don't.
It's just lack of knowledge. Because surely, if it's easy to start up, it's low cost. A lot of people take that risk.
Probably because of the things that happen in my life. I'll tell you the first one. And then that might help answer the question that you've just asked me. My parents separated before I was born, so I grew up with my mum. But you know, as a growing teenager, you start to have anger issues and identity issues, and I said I wanted to see my dad, etc., etc., etc. I then started to write to every address I could pinch from my mother's old diary to try and find my father. And I wrote like 1 or 2 letters every other week or every other month, everything I could find. It took me 3 years, but I eventually got a reply from somebody who said, I do know a Mr. Coke who goes to this Kingdom Hall in Jamaica. Actually, I was writing to London, Jamaica, New York, where my parents lived, New Jersey, everywhere. And I was writing from Africa, where it takes about a month or 2 for letters to travel. using aerograms, which don't exist anymore. So forget about emails or anything like that. We're talking about writing letters. 3 years later, I got a reply. You ever seen Shawshank Redemption? Yeah. That was actually, I had never seen it at the time. 3 years later, I got a reply, and someone said, I know a Mr. Koch who used to go to this Kingdom Hall, and he then called him from New York, called him Jamaica from New York and said, there was this guy who claims that his father's Mr. Jim Koch, and he's writing from Nigeria, and it's probably one of these scam emails, you know. These Nigerians are sending you scam emails, etc. And he said, well, actually, my brother did marry a Nigerian woman. And so my uncle then calls my brother, my dad, and anyway, I discovered him. But that's just persistence. You just keep looking, and you know, I'm not going to spend money to hire a private detective. I just couldn't afford it. I was actually only 15, but I could write letters. Second one was, I told you about Cambridge, where you just like, I can't afford this, but I'm just going to go ahead. Now, it actually happened that while I was there, they withdrew my scholarship and threw me out. I managed to get back in again. I had to reapply my 4th application, by the way. But before they threw me out, they withdrew my scholarship and said I now have to fund myself. Because I wasn't turning up for lectures. I was just pissing about, getting drunk and all sorts of things. And I was given 2 weeks to come up with £30,000, or else I had to leave. Necessity is the mother of invention. So I said, if I don't come up with £30,000, can I come up with a guarantee of £30,000? And the bursar said, who actually had to do the financial, said, okay, let's see what we can come up with. I joined the Navy as an officer cadet. I signed the Official Secrets Act, got a commission. I started working in a coffee shop. They extrapolated my salary, projected it for a whole year. That was my first experience at coffee shops. I started working in a pub. I joined the boxing club and got a guarantee from the secretary of the club. I also got a guarantee from the guy who interviewed me, who I said, when I first said to him, like, I'm leaving, I can't afford it. He gave me a guarantee. The whole thing combined with my Navy salary, guarantees from the boxing club, the earnings from the coffee shop and the pub, and the Professor Rice, came to about 28,000. I got that in 2 weeks.
Within a 2-week period.
Yeah.
But you cannot divide your time to be on the 5 jobs. How did you
Exactly. But I needed to get something to them. So I got it and said, and they said to me, how are you going to study and whatever? And I said, you just leave it to me. You asked for this, I've delivered nearly all of it. Let me stay. I'll worry about what I need to do. You just worry about the fact that I've got what you've asked me to get. Don't throw me out. And so, and then there are other things that happen in life, and it's all about persistence. If you want something badly enough, you will find creative ways to make it happen. You don't always have to just, you know, they talk about all these series of funding rounds and whatever, Series A and Series B, and I've never done any of that. I don't understand it. I just know that if I want to create something, I'll create it. I'll find a way. Yes.
It seems like you always take like high risk, and that's made your success in a way. It's like if you, it's not. I'm telling you.
Yeah.
But how do you validate your like? You have a business ID. How do you validate it? It seems like more a practical approach on it.
Oh, of course.
You don't write a business plan. You don't care about it. You test it really in the market, like by calling. And
I do. I also write a business plan, though. I think my first 2 businesses failed because, no, 3, because I didn't have a plan. This one has survived now because I actually have a 125-page plan, and it's detailed about what I need to do. And I actually sat down and looked at it 4 or 5 months ago, because we'd done about 3 years. And I could tick off a lot of the milestones that were supposed to be there. I actually had a plan, and I actually want to write another plan for the next 3 years. But I will not throw money into something unless I test it. I would implore you not to either. when you talked about the article in the South China Morning Post, after it came out, I got a few calls from people, either congratulating me or wanted to talk to me. I got a call from this girl who wanted to meet me and buy me drinks. And I was like, yeah, of course. She wanted to talk about a business idea. And when I met her, she's really good looking, actually. But anyway, we sat down, and she wanted to actually create a makeup company. And she wanted some suggestions from me as to how to go about it. She's actually an investment banker. And her idea of creating a makeup company was to get funding from a couple of sources and in a couple of million here and there, and start the factory in Indonesia or Thailand where it's cheaper, lower manufacturing cost, and start have a huge marketing budget for this and that. And she said, whoa, just chill. Have you ever made any makeup before? No. I use urban legend, I kind of know about it, I know what the weakness in the market is, etc. She actually knew her stuff. I eat McDonald's, doesn't mean I actually know exactly how to make it or whether I can run a restaurant. And I said, well, why don't you actually make one of these products first and start that way? Don't go around getting huge amounts of startup money just to burn, because you will go through it very quickly and you haven't made a single product yet. She didn't like my suggestion, and basically, I said, well, you know what, you asked me for my advice and I'll give it to you. So I said to her along the way, I said, I had a friend who's doing exactly the same thing. She's studying in Australia. She wants to develop a makeup brand. But she started with just making lip balm. Lip balm is wax, essence, and that's it, right? And you can put it into the container that you feel suitable and put a sticker on it, and that's a product. She started making lip balms and then moved on to little creams, etc. I don't go on computers a lot, but I mean, you guys go on YouTube, don't you? And look at these girls doing all makeup tips and whatever. I mean, some of them actually have their own brands, but they start from little or next to nothing. They create a little makeup brand, and they're showing people how to use it. They're getting more likes and more clicks and more hits, and they're probably generating some income from somewhere, and they're developing a product range. As opposed to this banker who decided that she wants to get a makeup company up and running, but she wants to get funding of several $1 million. Now, I'm not saying it doesn't happen. People do that, and they do succeed. I don't know of too many. I know of people getting huge amounts of funding and leaving other makeup companies and setting up their own. And they're just simply continuing on from where they left off at the previous company. But to start from scratch and start borrowing huge amounts of money just to make a product that you've never made before and you want to run a business, no. So to answer your question, test the market. Start off with something small, test it with friends or whatever, and see how it goes. Another example, my chocolates. We make chocolates now, and we take the coffee beans and coat them with Swiss chocolate, dark chocolate. When I started, and I had this idea, I went and bought molds from Sham Chapeau and bought some dark chocolate and just melted it and put coffee beans inside the molds, melted the chocolate, tempered it, and just let it set. It didn't come out very well. But I tried it on a couple of people and they said, yeah, it's kind of like nice, etc. Then I don't know, I was coming back from a meeting somewhere. I walked into a bar and there was a white girl behind the bar serving. And I thought, we don't have a lot of foreigners working behind bars in Hong Kong. Not that I've seen. This is actually Wan Chai as well, not the best parts of town. And she said, oh, well, actually, I'm actually a chef and I just am working here part-time. Oh, really? Well, I'm trying to make some chocolates and I'm not really good at it. She said, oh, I'll help you. She started making truffles for me with chocolates and had varieties. She had some with chocolates and caramel, some with chocolates and some almonds, etc. Sorry, coffee and almonds, coffee and caramel. And she had a range of coffee-related truffles and chocolates, and she made them for me and we sold them online, and I'm like, okay, we're starting. We didn't make a lot, but people came back saying it was really good, really nice. And we're going back 2 years. Tried it again. I said, okay, we're going to make the really simple ones. You know, like your Maltesers or your M&Ms, just coffee beans inside, chocolate out on the outside. Tried it a few more times. It wasn't working. We thought we'd try clusters. I wasn't going to throw money at it. Every time I got some spare cash, I'd go and think of another idea and try and work it. But we wanted to make sure that the chocolates weren't melting, because half the problem was that every time it actually rubbed off in your hands. I've not invested any money at all. I'm just basically playing with an idea over a 2-year period. Finally, we found a company that could do it. She messed me about for a while. We found another company. There are only 3 companies in the world right now that actually make Blue Mountain coffee beans coated in chocolate, and I'm one of them. But we just take our time. There is no rush. We actually make dark chocolate with orange, and milk chocolate green tea flavor. Park and Shop have just approved the chocolates. Now, I don't even want to spend money in packaging. I'm that cheap. So I said to them, you know what? I'm going to put those chocolates inside the coffee bags and put a little stick on the outside saying free chocolates inside. Because I don't want to have a huge development cost or a huge cost in launching a brand new chocolate product. I'm going to put them inside the coffee bags and see if people like them. And if my sales of coffee goes up. I know it won't be because people want to buy the coffee, unless because they want to buy the chocolates. Then I'll invest in printing to then create the whole range. But for now, I'm going to spend about 10 cents per bag, put them inside the drip bags. Have you seen my coffee bags at all? Go online, just look at Lily Kerridge. They're made up of a Hessian bag. It's a burlap bag. And you've got a paper wrap around it. Put the chocolates inside there, and then see what happens and see the reaction. You know, I test the market first.
If you invent this kind of things and you're only 3 in the world, do you protect your ideas in a kind of way?
You can't. You can't. I mean, you will find chocolate-coated coffee beans. They're very rare, and in Hong Kong there are about 4 or 5 places to do it. But we're the only ones to do it with Blue Mountain, and we're certified Blue Mountain. So we're taking the best chocolate with the best coffee, putting it together and saying, here's a snack. And we outsource it because I tried for years and it just came out terribly. Formed and, you know, unsightly. So I actually outsourced it in the end. And I didn't give them huge amounts of coffee and say, do this, do that with it. I'd always test it with small batches. So I'd give you a kilogram today, make me 20 kilograms of the finished product or 10 kilograms of finished product, and they'll make it and I'll give it to some people and try it. So Susu, Cantonese for little by little, I just do it over time, and when I'm happy that I can spend money on this, I'll spend. So if you're thinking of a business idea, don't have this notion that you're going to be getting huge. I mean, you can if you want to. I mean, there's nothing stopping you from, if you've got a rich daddy or something, or rich uncle, go and get some money and say, I'm going to try this. But start small. Start small, grow it. It shouldn't be hard. Yes?
How did you come up with the idea of the name of your business? Like Lily...
Kerridge.
With any special meaning?
I used to go out with a girl called Kerridge. Okay, it started off with the original name of the coffee was actually Daddy Coke, after my dad. And I was applying to the Coffee Industry Board of Jamaica to actually get the name approved, because you need to go through them for them to approve the name. And for almost a whole year, they held back my application. And I was fretting and really upset until eventually I had to call the Director General and say, look, this is really unacceptable. You say 6 weeks for an application, it's nearly 8 months. Why? They said that the word Coke, I don't know if you know a lot about Jamaica, you've got Dudas Coke, the famous drug lord. He was recently incarcerated, I think it's 2010. Ironically, the day he was arrested, I wasn't at work. And so the guys at work thought that, you know, I was part of his drug crew, and that's why I wasn't around. Irony is, the Coke family in Jamaica is actually very small. It's probably related to me anyway. But I'm not part of his drug crew. So they refused to approve the name because it had an association with the drug lord. Duda's Coke, Daddy Coke. They're like, no, they're not, we're going to have that. I said, no, it's in honor of my father. He says, it can't be with another name. And so there's a wonderful site called Knowem. Do you know it? Knowem. Sorry, is there am I moving too fast? Is there yes, please. I would definitely implore you to, sorry, I used to be a lecturer, so it's usually a lot easier for me to walk and talk. Let's see if I can catch that, thank you. Drag this along. So, go on to that. Go on to that and type in type in the name of any company you're thinking of, a name you're thinking of. And what it will do is go search through 800 different social media sites and then tell you if it's taken or not. And that way you can decide, because I believe that before you actually think of a name, social media is so important now. More so because I know I'm terrible at it, so I know how important it is to actually have presence there. So I want to make sure I can get the Facebook name for it, the Twitter account, Facebook page, Twitter account, LinkedIn account, domain name, before I come up with a business name. So to answer your question, ex-girlfriend called Kerridge, I was playing with a couple of names to see what was taken, what wasn't taken, and I came up with the Lily Kerridge, and it was not taken in anything. And I quickly registered all the accounts. I mean, they're free. Registered everything and then bought the domain name. And that's how I came up with my company name and the name of my product. So it really is. And of course, my business plan, I went to Live Plan. I mean, it sounds impressive that I have a 120 page business plan. But the truth of the matter is, if you go to liveplan.com, I think it's bplan.com, you can simply put in, yeah, it's beautiful. It just throws out like stuff, and with Hong Kong immigration, it is perfect because someone said to me, this is Hong Kong, the more paperwork you give them, the better it is for you. You know they say less is more? I say more is better. Here you give them shitloads of paperwork, they don't ask questions, they just like, okay. I mean, I got my investment visa with 48,000 Hong Kong dollars. Yeah, and that's not buying the visa. I mean, that's all I had to invest. But it was the plan. It was the fact that actually I did business in the past. I could show them Groupon deals. I could show them purchase orders. And had little cash left. And they looked at that, and it looked like a going concern. So my tip to you is invest in your business plan. And liveplan.com is one thing to, yeah.
Can you tell something about starting up a company in Hong Kong and how easy or how difficult it is? The process?
The process is actually very straightforward. You start off with registering. If it's a business, you need a BR, Business Registration Certificate for that. You go down to Revenue Tower. It used to be $450. It's now gone up to $2,000. Once you have that, you are technically a business owner. It's not a company yet, but if you want to set a limited company, you can go to companies registries, which is in Admiralty, and you register there. So within a day, you can get everything done. A company will take a little bit longer because you have to do a name search to make sure that that name isn't taken. So that's probably about 7 days. But the actual processing be done in a day. And getting your articles of association, you used to have to get your memorandum. They give you a template, you fill in your name and address, and that's it.
So the startup cost is around 2,000 Hong Kong dollars.
Yeah, I think between 2 and 3 now.
Yeah.
And so you're done, then you get your business account. I would suggest you go to know them first so you get your name so that you can actually put that on the business registration rather than just come up with a name and have it all tie in. Because people are very suspicious in Hong Kong. You have one business account name but another company name, and you're this and you're that and you're everywhere. And they're like, are you for real? So after starting off with Noam, the name on my website, Hillman Rainier, is the name on my business registration certificate, is the name on my bank account, is the name on everything that I have. or if you go to my Facebook page, or my LinkedIn page, or my site is down at the moment because I'm changing my hosting provider. But everything is the same. It's the same person, it's me. So you have consistency, it actually helps with the business. And that's what you should be doing. So starting up is pretty simple. That's what you should be doing. But you know, having a business is a different thing altogether. I normally say if you want to start a business of any sort, you don't have to be creative in what you want to do. I'm not an economics professor, so don't worry, I'm not going to try and blast you with hills and stuff. There is a supply chain of whatever it is, so I don't know, whatever you like. Whether it's food, whether it's cosmetics, whether it's shoes, clothing, or whatever. There is the part where it comes from the raw material to the consumer. And somewhere along the line, there are different industries that are there. Now, all you've got to do, if you're looking for a business idea, is to start off with something you like and you know and you enjoy. This is not a perfect chain. There are links, there are inconsistencies, and there are breaks in it. Find it. It's that simple. And you might have a business idea. But you start off with something you like. I found coffee by accident because someone told me that, by the way, there is a break in this chain. So the raw material of Jamaica Blue Mountain coffee obviously starts from Jamaica, where it is 200 Hong Kong dollars a kilo, right? But to the consumer in Hong Kong, they pay $2,000 per kilo. So what do I do? What most people do now is that they actually buy the raw materials, probably get it to a roaster, the roasting company then roasts it and then probably ships it out to Hong Kong. So you've got your raw material here, so let's just call it your green beans. You've got a roaster along the way. You've got the importer. And you've got the retail store. And you've got the consumer, right? I think that's probably roughly what's going on here. So I looked at that chain and I thought, it's being sold, green beans, at $200 a kilo in Jamaica, but the finished product to the consumer is actually at $2,000. I mean, my bags are HK299. Can somebody work this out for me? You should. HK299 per 113 grams. So how much is a kilo? I think it's going to be 1,000 divided by 113 times 299, isn't it? Can somebody do that on a calculator or something?
Excuse me, who does the packaging and this kind of?
I'll come to that in a minute. What's the price per kilo? If I'm selling it at 299 per. Okay, so the consumer actually, this is not something I'm making up. You can actually walk into the store. I'll tell you which one to go to. So what is it? 2,000. Okay. So that's how much the consumer is actually paying for Blue Mountain. So what is the lift on this? I mean, it's gone beyond silly now, hasn't it? You don't even have to work it out. It's just stupid. So I found that out when my ex-girlfriend asked me to go and get Blue Mountain coffee for her. And I sat down and I thought, shit, this is really good. So what do? I buy the green beans. So Jim Coke comes along and says, I'm going to buy the green beans from Jamaica, which you actually need a license for, by the way. So in Hong Kong, there are only 2 licensed Last time I checked, only 2 licensed guys who can buy green beans. I'm one of them. There are only 6 of us in all of Hong Kong and China. The license took me 1 year to get, so it's not easy to get. I buy the green beans, I roast, I import, and I sell direct to consumer. And when I get too lazy, I sell to the supermarket and they sell it on to consumer. Oh, and you asked the question of the packaging. The picture of the bags, I sew those bags. I remember actually the day I went to get my sewing machine in Sham Chapeau, and I walked into the stall, the shop, and saw the guy, a Chinese guy, and he said, you know, this is the sewing machine you need to get, and blah, 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 and I needed to do it for the sewing. So I said, look, I've been in Hong Kong long enough to know that you guys are going to screw me over, because it's either not going to work here or something's going to happen, and I'm not going to get my money back, because there's no, you know, there are no refunds in Hong Kong for most things. So I said, look, I'm going to buy this machine, but I'm going to guarantee you one thing, that if it doesn't work or there's a problem, I'm going to give you so much shit that you'll have to call the police or something, because I'm going to give you a really hard time. So I would suggest you teach me how to use it and make sure that there's no problem, because I don't take any prisoners. He agreed. He said, okay, you know what, sit down, we're going to show you how to thread, put the thimble in, make sure that it actually doesn't get caught when you're sewing this way. These are the manuals, and these are everything, you know. He sat me down for an hour and a half to show me how to sew. And when he finally did that, I said, fine, thank you very much. And you know, I'm like, I had to learn quickly, because once you walk out of the store, that's it. So I didn't want to pay for sewing classes, and I didn't want to pay for anything other than a machine. And I actually sat down, learned how to sew in an hour and a half, and just had to take it all in really quickly, and walked out of the store. And before I left, he said to me, you know, you're a Chinese guy, you know, you negotiate like a Chinese guy. I'm like, yeah, you know, I'm a Nigerian man. I know how to negotiate. So walked out of the store with my sewing machine, and that's what I use now. I actually make all my own packaging, except for each bag.
So there must be a huge manufacturing, packaging thing.
What huge man?
Like packaging, it's like how many machines do you have for this?
Oh, no, not a lot of machines. Look, it's these numbers I was looking at. Every time I start adding things to it, the margin between here and here starts to diminish, doesn't it? So I'm actually looking at it in terms of, you know what, I've got to keep this as wide as possible. So why add huge cost to it? I've just got to get huge volume out. Not okay, by interpretation, by getting huge volume out, you're actually making more products, etc. So I just spend more time making more products. But by increasing my overheads between here and here, this doesn't become so attractive anymore, does it? So my job is to ensure that my overheads are as low as possible and minimize the amount of machinery that's purchased, and I just simply work on getting products out to more stores, to more people.
Can I ask you, what is your annual sales? Like if you have like in tons you're selling, you have to sew it all by yourself?
I won't discuss that. But I'm just giving you an outline of the business. Yeah. That's how you come up with an idea. So if you're looking at something, find whatever it is you like, you enjoy, look at the supply chain, and see where you can fit in, what you can break, what you can't break, what you can implement, what you can take advantage of, and go from there. That's what I think. But I'm no expert. You've spoken to quite a few people this week, haven't you? And they've all got different take on things. I actually only know 1 or 2 of them. I know Jennifer and Simon. And I say by knowing them, I've actually met them twice or so. And that's it. So I've never really heard their story and how they started. And I'm sure you're hearing very different things. So we all come from different backgrounds and in different fields. Jennifer's makeup. Simon is IT, technology, investment. He started off actually doing consulting, marketing, IT or something. Pardon? Oh, creative agency. Okay. So advertising, marketing, creative agency. So we all have different takes on things. I just looked at. I'm here to tell you how I started and what I felt was important and the catalyst in how I made that journey. So that's really it. Um, it's up to you. It's a product as well. So products themselves, they. I never thought of setting up a products business. I thought I'd be in consulting or whatever, because the last two were basically consulting service businesses. But with products, it's actually a lot easier and a lot more tangible, not just in the physical sense of it, but in terms of knowing exactly what your costs are, what your overheads are, and getting it from A to B. So all I've simply done is transport it from Jamaica to Hong Kong. And why Hong Kong? And why Asia? Have you guys actually ever heard of CEPA? It's an agreement. You can Google it if you want. I mean, everyone's got phones here and everyone's always on their phones. CEPA is an agreement between Hong Kong and China. And what it ensures is that there is a tariff system between goods made in Hong Kong, exported to China, either have zero tariff or very low tariff. Yeah? Zero tariff. Now, the list changes every year, doesn't it? You girls are from Hong Kong, right? The list changes every year. And as far as I know, and now you want to know why I do this, roasted coffee is on that list. Green coffee is not on that list. So what does it mean to have something made in Hong Kong? You have to have a 30% change in the product for it to have the Made in Hong Kong stamp on it. And that's all that's required. So once I make a 30% change, it now has a Made in Hong Kong, and I can move it to China at zero tariff. That's my supply. And actually, it's in my business plan when I sent it to immigration. So I didn't just make up an idea and think, oh, yeah, it's kind of good. You've got to do some research. Yeah? So why China? Now, I said to you that I'm getting 2,646 per kilogram for coffee in Hong Kong. Do you know how much the same coffee is in China? Do you know what this figure is for China? Pardon? Yeah, I'm not sure exactly because it actually varies from region to region. But we're looking at something close to, for a grade 1, I think, because the same bag is probably going for something like, I don't know, $300-400. And if I want to go to the provinces like no one's ever been to, where they haven't seen a black guy, do you know what I mean? We'll probably be getting a lot more. Do you know what I'm talking about now? You sit down and you work out a strategy of how you're going to make money, because you're looking at a situation where you're still getting this at this price, but it's only in China where you can sell it for that. There's nowhere else in the world. So why do you think I actually do it in Hong Kong? And why do you think I stay here? Because according to CEPA, which was rubbed out, I can get the green beans, which is not allowed, transform it to this by doing all the manufacturing myself and basically doing it myself literally, and taking all the way to here for that amount. It's not sustainable like you mentioned. At some point, there are going to be a lot more market entrants and you'll have to change your business model. But until that happens, I'm quite happy to keep doing this and that. Yeah? I'm quite happy to keep doing it.
Like playing chess with it.
Yeah, you got to be a thinking guy. Your education is not about you sitting in a job and, photocopying for your boss to be telling you, write this stupid plan. You're smart enough to be sitting out there and thinking, how am I going to do something that's going to be creative? Yes, go on.
So what is exactly stopping me from doing this, for example, in the next week? I mean, what would you say are the boundaries at this point?
Well, to get the green beans at the government prices, you need to get a license. So go and apply for it. It will take you about, I don't know, 6 months or so. And once you have that, once you have a license, you still actually have to have a buyer. So you'll have to try and find a way of you selling it either online in China or...
That's the initial like ladder.
Yeah, but I guess so. But even building a business, I mean, while you're doing all of this, you don't live on thin air. So either you've got a full-time job, which is actually paying your rent and your food, or you've got startup costs, which you're going to be eating into. I mean, if you start up a business, you're paying rent, you're having to pay all sorts of expenses, ongoing expenses, variable expenses, and your fixed costs every month, and probably daily. So it takes a while for it to just happen. It just doesn't happen. It's just a natural evolution of, I want to get something done, I'm going to work on it slowly and gradually and get there. And you could do it. Why not? But imagine you and I going to China and they want to buy Jamaican Blue Mountain coffee. That's what I said initially. I'm like the Jamaican guy and I'm selling you this stuff.
I'll just hire that guy.
Yeah, do that. Because when I deal with the China... You're laughing, I like the... Yeah. Yeah.
No disrespect.
No. There's no disrespect whatsoever. Because when I try and sell to the Chinese, I don't go there. I hire a Chinese girl. One, because most of the buyers are men, and two, because a Chinese woman always comes across a lot better than a Chinese man. Because the man wants to try and flirt with a woman, and it helps with business. So let's be practical about this. But you buy from people, and you need to start thinking of that as the world is literally not built on objectivity and rationality. It's not. It's subjective and it's irrational. And someone asked a question about these opportunities. I think it was you, about opportunities and the very little risk and why aren't people doing it? Because it's an irrational, and you talked about a perfect market. There is no perfect market. I'm telling you something that exists today. Why is it that I can buy a commodity at this price and sell it at that price in the world we live in? And you've got the internet. I mean, Jamaica is not as if it doesn't. It's not as if it doesn't have the internet. Then it's actually, if you want to find this information, you go to the ciboj.org. It's not a hard thing to find, and actually find out that the price of green beans is this if you have a license.
But I mean, you also went with the, you give me information on like the assumption that people wanted to buy the coffee, right? So like that's also like, it could have been like there's a lot of products out there as well. Like if you try to create a market for it, you just have a lot of like startup costs with with marketing and like getting it to the people, your idea. So I guess it's also like quite a bit of luck, right? Like that's undeniable.
I guess so, because when I started, I mean, literally, it was somebody telling me, please buy me this, which is a roasted coffee, somewhere along here, and give it to me so that she doesn't have to pay the consumer the retail price, right? I saw this the first time, the price differential between here and here. That's all I saw. And I thought, okay, let me go further along this point and further. I mean, I'm not going to sell it to my girlfriend anyway, or ex, Addie. I wasn't actually even selling it to her, I just gave it to her. But when I was selling to friends, it wasn't really at the sort of like market rate, because they didn't really know me and they weren't sure if it was real or not. So they were trying basically, oh yeah, I'll pay you this for that, for a bag. So I was buying it from a roaster in Jamaica and selling it on to some friends below the retail rate, the competitive rate. But when I started looking into the supply chain and realized that actually the cost of the green beans are this, and if I got into a store, I could be getting that for it. And then I started to think, you know what, I could even go further. I should just buy a bloody farm. And that would be a lot easier. Do you know what I mean? And guess what? The Chinese are doing that. They're actually buying Blue Mountain farms in Jamaica. Yeah, they are. Bought the biggest one, I think. Yes.
How do you cope with the fact, like the growing of platforms like Alibaba, that's like for everyone is available, like source from Jamaica, coffee beans, and
Yes, I mean that does exist.
for your business model you have here?
I mean, yes, it is. So you could actually go and buy from them, but the problem is, like I said before, to get green beans at a government rate. Okay, I haven't explained it very well. Blue Mountain is the only globally registered trademark for a coffee. So in order to buy it, you need to be licensed to buy this product. Now, of course, that's the theory behind it, and most people don't have a license. They just trade it from here to there and everywhere. But I picked a product that actually had some entry barriers, yeah? And so that actually helps me.
What are the prerequisites for a license?
No, it's nothing more than an application, really. You know, it's just green beans. Yeah, just put the application in, have a business, and you need a bank reference, and that's it.
Sorry, you also mentioned SEPA, and you said it has to be a 30% change. What do
Yeah.
you mean by that?
According to the rules, to have something that it would have the Made in Hong Kong stamp on it, there's got to be the manufacturing process has got to undergo a 30% change, and it could have changed by now. I can't remember, but it's got to undergo a 30% change from one state to the next, and then it's considered made in Hong Kong. So from one state to the next. So from going from green beans to roasted, packed, sealed in Hong Kong is more than 30% of the finished product. So I'm okay with that, and that's how you'd go about doing it. Yeah. Sorry, any more questions?
Maybe more like of a personal question. Like, I mean, in all these like down cycles, you know, when you felt like super, like, you know, you must have felt like somehow against the wall, you know, because you're running out of money. You know, I don't know, like if you have responsibilities for some other people, but like, you know, also for yourself. Like in these down cycles, I feel like most of us, you know, when you take that entrepreneurial risk, like it's just bloody scary, to be honest. Like,
Yeah.
you know, so like, what did you tell yourself, or like, was it really just sheer passion of like, you know, working for yourself that you kept on going, or like, what can you say about it like this?
Actually, the question actually is more representative now. If you ask me what will I do differently if I had to do it all over again, I'd keep a job.
You would keep the job.
I'd keep a job and then do the entrepreneurship thing on the side. Start small.
Okay.
Unless, of course, you've got lots of funding and you can go straight in. But remember, funding is basically a bank loan or a loan of some sort.
Yeah.
I mean, or you're getting money in exchange for equity. I would keep a job and start small and grow it slowly. That's what I'd do. And you can eventually get there. Definitely think that.
Okay.
Yeah, so if you have an idea, in fact, I've got to go and get some sleep this morning or this afternoon when I go back. I've only had about 2 hours. But it was the question you're asking now was basically what I was talking to my friend about 4 hours, 5 hours ago, which was get a job teaching English or something or whatever it is. And then I would give her a list of things she needed to do. Okay, so I'll rub this off. This is not a business school, so please don't think I have any. Can I have another pen, please? Is there another one? Andre, is there another pen?
No.
Probably this is the only one. Okay. Right, I had a friend come to me last night and say she wants to import caviar from Russia. Now, of course, you know you've got black caviar and red caviar, and Russian caviar is usually red caviar. This is the cheaper stuff. And she was telling me, look, how do I get into this? I need a lot of money, etc. And I was like, no, you don't. If I had to do it myself today, this is what I'd do. Okay, number one, I get my BR. Business registration, 2,250. Number two, company registration. I think it's another. These two combined come to about, I think it's 2.5. Let me just be sure, because they changed the ordinance recently, so I need to confirm that. But I'm putting an estimate on this. Okay, my import license for food. The last time I did it lasts for 3 years, and that is 200 Hong Kong dollars. Pen's really going. So Import license, 200 Hong Kong dollars. There's probably nothing here. Oh, okay. Okay.
We should put that.
There's something. Oh, okay. Start again. Imagine when I was actually at school. What have we got? BR. BR and company registry together, it's probably about 2.5. Number 2, import license, Hong Kong import license for food. Last time I checked, it was about $200. Okay, so she's now brought the. I don't know how much she's getting the caviar for, but I mean that's going to be, like I would say to her, start small. Don't even think of going big with it and getting a whole container of the whole stuff. Now she doesn't have a manufacturing unit. She needs to get a big factory to process the raw caviar. And I said, don't do that. I know a lady in Shimwan who does an incubator for food startups, right? You pay your one incubator. Now, for her, she charges something like, I think, $1,000 for the application fee. You pay about $400 or $200 an hour to use the kitchen, which has a food factory license, so whatever you make there is actually licensed. You also need liability insurance, which I got a $10 million liability insurance for $750 Hong Kong. So we're going to talk about a lot of money. So if you said incubator plus liability insurance, plus you need to get a food hygiene certification from the government, it's free. Let's call it about $3,000 to get you going. About $3,000 for the incubator getting. And of course, as you start to use the incubator, you spend more money if you're paying an hourly rate. So she has the caviar, I don't know how much for, but she's buying jars. I have a girl who works for me, and what she does, she actually goes onto Taobao. You know Taobao? Yeah. And then she orders jars and stuff for me and coffee packaging. So you know what I mean by when we say packaging. I mean, what sort of price do you put on it? But you don't put a lot. I mean, jars from Taobao is not going to break the bank, even if you want to get some pretty decent ones, right? And so all you've got left is the packaging in terms of the label, the sticker, the label. And if you can get it done in China, you can probably, that's the start of the packaging as well. I don't know. I used to have to do huge amounts of labels, but you can go to a printing company and probably start off with like, I don't know, 100, 200. You don't have to do 1,000. I mean, you don't do 1,000 jars of caviar anyway. It just doesn't make sense. So packaging with jars, everything, let's say another $2,000. Don't even think you'll need that much, but $2,000. So really, I don't know how much the caviar is going to cost, but she's getting it dirt cheap in Russia because she's Russian. She knows a woman who's making it, or whose family own the farm, and she can actually get it for dirt cheap. So far we've probably hit the $7,000, haven't we? 7.5, 7.7, and that's probably where we are now. Now at this stage, she probably has a couple of samples, maybe 2 or 3 kilograms that were probably given to us, test samples. I mean, you don't make 2 or 3 kilogram jars of caviar, you make them in 100 grams, 250. So 2-3 kilograms should get her what? Maybe 30 jars or something, you know. And I said, at this stage, I will come in. Now I'm your friend, so I'll probably give you a pretty good rate. But you come in, having packaged all of this at the incubator, which is really a kitchen that has a food factory license, so you've passed all the labeling laws, etc. And you give it to me, and I take it to Park and Shop. Under my account, I'll take a 30%, not a 30% cut, but I take a cut from whatever the deal is. But you then go on to the supermarket, because that's really where you want to establish your brand. And you want to ensure that at least if it's out there visibly, where people can see it and say, okay, you've actually started off with something, it's going to be, you know, it's going to be, it's a good start for your brand, put it that way. So with a supermarket deal, anything goes. But I told her that I could get this, I can get a brand of caviar in Hong Kong started for that's all I need. She didn't believe me. We drank some more and we talked some more and we smoked some more and just basically I said, you know what, if it's a bet, I'm prepared to make that bet with you. Can be done. How much do you think it costs to actually launch a brand? I mean, before I gave you this information.
Way more.
10,000 euros.
Euros, yeah. But I learned this because I actually made some stupid mistakes along the way. And you finally learn to get things done more efficiently. So my chocolate brand, so this is basically you're starting up. But if you're you're already on your way now. You're already on your way and you kind of have a few things on the go. So you want to launch a new brand or something. So I'm thinking of actually launching, we've got Jamaican coffee. So what do I have at the moment? I'm trying to create a niche for myself where I actually bring in a suite of products that actually gives me a competitive edge. Remember what I said about people buy from people? So what's my Jamaican edge? I have the coffee, which is world famous. Red Stripe Beer. Sorry. Red Stripe Beer, which is famous and it offers a Jamaican product. Can anybody tell me what you think you'd associate with Jamaica that's not on that list? Weed. It's actually going to be legal this year, I think. Pardon? Pardon? Running.
Yeah.
No, in terms of food products. You're quite right.
You can say a sports drink that is related to running.
That's a good point, actually. You're getting close, though. Thank you very much. So, it's rum. Now, I'm talking to a company about getting what they call a private label. Do you know what a private label is? A private label is how most people start brands. So you don't, by virtue of being economical and being smart, you don't decide to start something from scratch and make it. There are companies that make everything that you can think of right now. And if you look very carefully, you find a private label company that will do it for you. So you think of baked beans, water, anything you can think of, there's a company that actually makes it and doesn't put a label on it. And it's up to you to put your own label on it and brand it as your own. So what I'd do is I'd go to a rum company in Jamaica and ask for a private label rum. And I did. Now I've got to think of a name for that rum. What did I do? Of course I went to, and I thought I need a real catchy, edgy name for my rum. So I then Googled a name that I thought I could get, but it, not Google, put it into Noam, and it didn't work. So I came up with a new name for my rum. Demon rum, but spelt in the old English way. Demon rum, and I think, yeah, people have the idea. What's a demon? A demon's a spirit. Sometimes associated as an evil spirit, but it's just a spirit. Demon rum, nice name. I'm going to do the labeling here in Hong Kong, make it really nice and sort of high end. What do I need? What I need from the distillers in Jamaica is probably about 10, 20 bottles, private label. That is basically, they've made my rum for me and I have no label on it. There's no label, it's just blank. They send it over to me. I create the label here in Hong Kong. I get a young student at HKU who wants to make a bit of money and is creative. I'll probably pay her or him $1,000 to come up with a really nice design for me with the name Demon Rum. So that's $1,000 in terms of what do you call it? Design cost. Bottles, it's all going to be done in Jamaica. So let's give a unit cost of the bottle. They're going to actually do the rum, bottle it for me. I mean, what do you think distillers would probably charge? What's a bottle of rum go for in Hong Kong? Sorry, $100? About 120. But remember what I said when I was doing the whole thing where you buy the raw materials from Jamaica and the end product is, yeah. So you can probably use the same, thank you very much. And you do that and you think, okay, you know what? This might actually come up to something like 20 Hong Kong dollars in production cost. It may do, but it's not going to be anywhere close to what you get in the retail store if you're buying directly from the distillers in Jamaica. So I'm probably going to say, look, cost of goods sold with shipping, $30 per bottle, right? Depending on how much I get from the manufacturers, I might get my first 2 or 3 cases. I'm not going to be breaking the bank with $30 a bottle, right? So my HKU student designs a label for me. The next thing would be running out of space. We came to packaging, which, yeah. We're only talking about stickers now because the bottle of rum has already been made, etc. Put the sticking, so packaging is here.
So what was, for example, be the trade-off to not put it in like a fancy box and like sell it, you know, like to a bit higher in the target market? Like how come you had that? Like, how come you wouldn't choose for that? Because that's also bigger risk, bigger profits, right? But with this, maybe.
Well, just coming to it, I mean, do you know what? I don't want to do that because when you actually make those sort of boxes, you do need there's a high MOQ for that. So I might find a good printer that will probably make 1 or 2 for me. Because have you seen the whiskey bottles? You know, the Scottish whiskey bottles. They're really nice. So I want something like that, and I've always got a few at home, basically as a design inspiration. So.
The valid proposition is probably the price you're aiming at. Like
Yes.
Price,
And that price
all
will be
the costs and,
the price will be reflected in probably the attractiveness of the packaging. It's Hong Kong.
It's always like this.
You know, more attractive it is, the higher price it gets. Forget the content.
Yeah.
Yeah. So, what have I spent so far? Pardon? 2,000 packaging, 1,000 for the design cost. I might even get the student to do it for free if I can get his or her name on the bottle, say designed by whatever, so I could actually knock this out. But let's just say I'm going to be putting about, plus the bottles, 6 to 7K. I'm cheap.
Is it US dollars or?
Hong Kong. These are all Hong Kong dollars. I don't deal in US dollars, man. And I go down to Park and Shop and say, I've got this fantastic rum. It's a product of Jamaica because it technically is. Voila, I've got a new brand. Now I got a lady came to me, we used to work together in the recruitment agency, and she came in with tea sticks. Have you heard of tea sticks? Tea sticks are tea leaves wrapped in aluminum foil, and they've got perforations in them. So if you put them in hot water and stir them around, the hot water turns into tea. Obviously, the hot water infuses into the tea and stirs and turns around, etc. So she brought those over to me, and I looked at them and I thought, it's really good. I kind of like this. And I got them into Park and Shop for her. I pitched to my buyer, and my buyer accepted it, etc. But I thought, you know what? If I wanted to be a real bastard, I could cut her out. Because all I have to do is find a private label company that makes tea sticks. And I did. No, I didn't cut her out. I'm not that kind of person. But I actually did find a company. And all I had to do was call them up and say, by the way, I want to have my own brand of tea sticks. And they'll ask me what my MOQ is, etc. Get started. I mean, I do food, okay? So I'm talking about what I know best. But if any of you wanted to start any kind of food product or whatever, private label is the way to go forward. Start small, and then when you get really big, then you start investing in manufacturing facilities. That's how you expand. But you don't expand by thinking, I've got to try and make this stuff. No, you don't have to try and make the stuff. What you have to try and do is label the stuff. Go on.
I was thinking, do you have like a website to find like things like private label companies, or how do you know they do the private label? You call them?
Just Google private label.
Ah,
That's what I do. Private label coffee.
yeah, okay.
And if you can actually find private label coffee, and I wish I did, because that would have saved me quite a bit. But if you wanted to have your own coffee brand tomorrow, get your cash ready, go for private label coffee company, and they'll make it for you. Yes. Yeah.
But yeah, most of these guys work with MOQs, so you probably just like get some samples from the private labels and then you like do it, or like how does that work?
I think half of it's when you kind of build a relationship, you also understand yourself better and understand business requirements. Yes, they do want MOQs, but you can often negotiate. I mean, just negotiate with them about sample sizes or initial orders, and you might be able to get away with, a small order to start off with. Yeah.
So you would never start a business, let's say, without having tested it, right? Like you wouldn't just
Hell no.
directly go
No.
MOQs like 500,000.
No, I wouldn't do that. I mean, for example, we started with Red Stripe beer. We've now got a container. We bought our first container. Our first shipment of Red Stripe beer was via DHL in February last year. And we brought in a couple of cases. Tried them out. We tried them out on Groupon. And sold, they first sent me samples by DHL, and I gave my friends and I said, try this out, try that out. And when we're satisfied, we then got more samples sent over via DHL again, and we sold it on Groupon. And it was okay, the sales were pretty good. And I got that idea, then I took some of the samples left over to the supermarket and said, I can supply you Red Stripe beer. I didn't even have a bloody contract. I just went in and said, I'm the Jamaican guy, you want Red Stripe beer, I can get it to you. I didn't even have a contract with the manufacturers. And then eventually I signed the contract with them and I started supplying. But before I actually got that first container, I had probably had 4 shipments before. Small quantities, air freighted, and then I said, okay, I'm ready for the big order. And we're now in 20 stores, yes.
Do you feel that in this type of business you have to physically be there? Do you feel that you can do it from abroad, or it's important that you have that personal connection and you're actually there to make business? You couldn't do this over the phone, basically.
I've not left Hong Kong in 5 years. I'm sorry, but I haven't. I know it's a bit lazy of me. I've not left this island in 5 years. So I think you have to be physically here with the Chinese to do business, but with the Jamaicans and the Brits and the Americans, you don't have to be, you could do that over the phone. The answer to your question is depends on who you're dealing with. I've never met my Jamaican suppliers, none of them. It's all done by phone, not even Skype them. Never met my British suppliers or American suppliers, but you don't want to do business without meeting your Chinese buyers. Don't ever make that mistake. You stay here, and a lot of expats come here and build businesses and fail because they go home every now and then. They want to go back to Europe, they want to go back to Canada, Australia. They just fuck around and not really stay here. Dealing with the Chinese, you've got to be here all the time. It's a relationship, you've got to build it. It's not like in Europe where it's transactional. It's about, I have a commodity, I have a service, you're a willing buyer, I'm a willing seller. And let's transact. In Asia, it's very different. It's very much relationship building, and you've got to be around. Yes. I then go to the supermarket because already I bought those small samples, so I wasn't really spending a lot of money. And I go to supermarkets and say, or 7-Eleven, and say, look, I can get you some Jamaican beer and I want it listed in the stores. Okay, how much would it cost? They're like, no, we don't really want to buy them because we don't really know if it's going to sell, this and that. I said, well, okay, you know what? I tell you what, I'm going to put them on consignment, which means I put them in the stores. If it sells, you take a commission. Or maybe they actually say, look, we're going to buy a container and try it out. But supermarkets have a very strange way of paying you late in Hong Kong. It's not late, it's just, do that all over the world. So the payment terms of the supermarket could be 60 days, and in my contract it's 60 days. So supermarket pays me in 60 days. So I get a container load of beer shipped in from Jamaica, and all I do is pay the freight. Do you know how much the freight is for a 40-foot container? Can anyone tell me? The freight for a 40-foot container? Everything's always in Hong Kong. It's about 8,000. Just over 1,000 US. I bring it in, 40-foot container, full of goods which I haven't paid for, put them into a warehouse in Hong Kong. If I want to get a warehouse I can rent somewhere in Kwai Chung or Kwai Hing or somewhere, do you know how much it costs? Because if you use one of these like freight forwarders, they're going to tear you a new hole. Do not go to freight forwarders unless you really have to. If you're going to think of a long-term business, actually try and really consider going in and renting a place. So if you want to rent a place that might be able to take a 40-foot container, at least the goods inside, you're probably paying about 3,000 to 5,000 Hong Kong dollars a month. Yeah? Kwai Hing, Kwai Chung, Kwun Tong, probably paying about that amount of money a month. So now you've got the goods in, you put it into the stores, and the stores then pay you. They pay you in 60 days, and you take the money and pay the manufacturers 60 days later. I mean, that's the perfect world, but we don't live in a perfect world. But it happens all the time. You don't need a lot of financing. It's not a lot of risk.
But how did you know that there was demand for this beer then? You just...
I didn't have a business plan. I just kind of guessed. It's a famous beer in Europe, in America. So we've got expats here. It's a new beer. We can try and bring in the Caribbean element.
Did you market? How did you market it?
We haven't really. We started off with a Groupon deal. Again, I like using them because they've been really good to me. We try and get a buzz around, and we start to get a Facebook page on. We had a budget of $5,000 for launching the beer, so we didn't really want to make a huge splash, and just slowly by word of mouth spreading. That's how we want to get it out. So, we've only been doing it for about a week and a half.
Okay.
It's in 20 stores now. So we'll see what happens. Maybe you send me an email in 6 months' time and tell me, did you launch it with $4,000 and did it pay off? And I'm like, yes or no. You know, kind of stuff happens. Yes.
I think for us as a startup, it will be the tricky part to convince like the guy who where you source the product, the producer,
Yes.
to convince them to give 120 days payment terms to a new guy that doesn't know.
Well, I did it, and this guy had never seen me before. Remember, I negotiated this in Jamaica. I haven't left Hong Kong. I can show my passport. So as far as he's concerned, I'm a startup too.
Crazy.
But if you got to, you know, when I said that I applied to Oxbridge 3 times, if you want something badly enough, you will find a way to get it. Do you know what I mean? It's not a beyond. To become an entrepreneur is not something that. It's not an exercise like you do if you were doing an assignment. It's about a passion to want to do something, to overcome obstacles and say, I'm going to try and find a way around this problem. That's what it is. It's an interesting journey, and it could work out for you. It may not. Who knows? But intellectually, it can be challenging as well. Constructively, rather than sitting in an office and getting bored out of your face and looking at spreadsheets all day. Yes.
You didn't find there to be any kind of culture clash when you first came here?
Oh, shitloads.
A lot.
Yeah.
And that prohibited you to do business initially, or?
My first year, I was sitting in Tin Shui Wai. That's where we started the coffee company. In a little apartment, it's a 3-bedroom apartment. It's not so little. And my dining room table was my office. And I got a list of 120 hotels in Hong Kong. And I called every single one of them twice to try and sell coffee. No fucking way. It's so hard to get through to them. If you're not Chinese and you're trying to negotiate with Chinese buyers, trust me, it's hard work. It's a cultural barrier. And when you go in as well, the few that probably wanted to see me and actually have a conversation with me would sit down. I'm not racist, my girlfriend's Chinese, so it's not as if I have this thing about the Chinese that I don't want to deal with them. I'm just giving you the reality of doing business here. Trying to negotiate simple things is just such hard work. So they'd come in maybe at pitch, and I'm a little bit temperamental as well. I do have a bit of a temper. I've learned to calm down a little bit now. I'm amiable, I can get on with you if you're just sort of straight with me. But sometimes there was a lot of cultural disconnection, which I mistook for duplicity. When it really wasn't duplicity, it was just a question of this is how it's done here. And you need to understand that. And I've slowly learned to understand that it's not duplicity, it is, they won't say no directly to your face. They'll be very politely give you an excuse which seems stupid, but it's a cultural way of saying I'm not interested. And I took it as you're trying to think I've got shit for brains. I don't appreciate that. And I then go off on one and I'd basically, go mad at them. But it's a cultural way of doing things here, and you've got to slowly learn. I don't know, am I speaking the truth? It's just generally how it's done, and it's not offensive, it's just how it's done. And, you've got to slowly learn that. There are barriers, yes.
Do you feel that your girlfriend stops you from, because I have a girlfriend and I'm always worried that I might attend to matters with her as opposed to focusing on a startup. Do you feel that
it is, because women burn through money very quickly. You know that. You need your undivided attention, so you've got to balance it out. Yeah, you're not a monk, you're not supposed to live on this earth and just be, you're not an island either. You have to interact with people. But I find it very useful. Here's a pretty good example. When we go to the supermarkets and I'm delivering, I used to have a hard time, and we're talking about last week. I'd go in, head office has approved the beer. I'm delivering it to the stores. The stores are then telling me, get out. Who are you? And I'm like, I've got a delivery note. It's meant to be here. Oh no, just go away, go away, go away. Or we can't sign it, or who are you, what do you want? I'm like, are you kidding me? There's a product code here. Scan the product. You actually see it come up on the system. And they'd be like really rude to me. So I'd call her up and say, look, you got to come down here because they're giving me so much shit. So I then turn around and sort of like dress really rough and say I'm the delivery boy and she's the boss. And then she just gets on the phone and says, my delivery boy's coming in to drop some beer off. Da-da-da. They're like, yes, no problem, we'll put it here, we'll put it there. And I just pretend I can't speak English, and they just put it on the shelves, everything was organized, and it's all done. If you go through warehouse to the supermarket, it's really tough. It takes like days and whatever. So I wanted to bypass that and deliver it myself, because it does take 3-4 days. Now, not all of them's like that. I mean, I've been to some stores where the managers are like, yep, let's see the delivery order, no problem, put it over there, put some in the fridge, done, where do I chop? Out. I mean, I got to one point where I was delivering on Kane Road, which is actually just behind my office. I walk up to Kane Road I've got a taxi there, with about 5 cases. Got off, got into the store and said, I've got this delivery, here's a delivery order, we're launching the beer, it's been approved by head office. And they're pretty much like, no speak English, you have to go. I'm like, you're in the middle of mid-levels. At least hear me out, it's 9 o'clock, 9:15. The guy was shouting at me and I said, you know what, I'd lost my rag this time. This must have been a Friday night and I was really pissed off. So I just said, you know what, you're either fucking taking this thing or we're gonna call the police. I went to the counter and I stood at the counter and I said, no one is buying any more stuff in this store until somebody talks to me, because I just can't stand this shit anymore. And I'm like, you're taking the stuff now, call your manager, get him on the phone, get him out of bed, I don't care what time it is. You're wasting my time. I run a business too. I can't afford to be running up and down because you don't want to take things because you don't understand them or you can't check the system. Got onto the manager, yelling and screaming down the phone saying, this is ridiculous. I mean, how do you expect me to run a business? And the manager's like, okay, we'll take it. A lot of face. They took it, gave me the chop, I went away. And I'm like, I don't trust those guys, I'm gonna go back. So this time, I went back with my girlfriend and I said to her, here's a script. You're the boss. I'm the delivery boy. I was a little bit rude and out of place when I came in the last time, and you want to come in to ensure that the product was actually put on the shelves. So she comes in, she's a manager, she runs this coffee company and beer company, and my boy came in here to deliver the beer, and where's the beer? Sitting in the manager's office, they wouldn't even put it onto the shelves. They just dumped it there and that was it. She was raking and shouting. They were pissing themselves. They were picking up the stuff like, oh yes, no problem, no problem. All in Cantonese. And I understand a little bit of Cantonese, and they're like putting in the shelves and getting it all sorted out, and it was all done. 10 minutes. Boom. Cultural differences? You don't know half of it. But it's interesting, it's a challenge.
You have to find a Chinese girlfriend.
Yeah, it might be one trick. Or just outsource it. Find a company, outsource it, and you're okay. And it can work.
So you said, you do need to give your undivided attention to the business to grow and stuff, but you also said just now, it's a good idea to have a job when you start. So like, how does that balance work?
Something's got to have legs before you take that risk. I'm just saying minimize your risk, have a steady income coming in, because the reality of running a business is you will have variable cost, fixed cost, and some overheads generally that will come in to the business. You've got to live. So let it start small, slowly, build it up, and when you start to see that it's getting some legs, crank it up, and then you take that leap of faith. That's my advice. If I had to do it now, that's what I would do. I wouldn't say I won't go for something because I don't really believe in it, but I want to test the market first. Keep my job, go through it slowly, see how it's going, and when I see that, man, this thing is really picking up, I'm like, yeah, you know what? Let's give this thing a shot, and then take it from there. So, yeah, that's what I'd do. Keep a job and try and build something. Yes.
Do you think Hong Kong is a place to be right now, business in the East? What other business hubs are there around?
I don't know too many other business hubs. I do know that, when I gave you that layout of why I've chosen to be here, for that reason, it's the largest consumer market. The take-up of coffee, it's like 0.1% of the population that drink coffee in China. Can you imagine if it went to 3%? Do you know what the numbers are? From 0.1 to 3% of the population that drink coffee in China? I mean, it's less than 1% now, actually, I think, in percentage terms. But if it just went to 2% of the population of consumers drinking coffee, and I only do the very high-end stuff, and you have the largest growing middle class society in the world, about 40 kilometers from here. What are the possibilities, man? Yeah? Remember that coffee is, I think, the largest traded commodity in the world. The largest traded. Oil is the largest traded by value, but by volume, coffee, I think, is the largest traded. I could be mistaken, it's probably number 2. So I think it's number 1. Oil's number 2. Oil's number 1 by value, coffee's number 1 by volume. So I think there is a justification for making a business case about presenting this commodity in this particular part of the world and developing, I've rubbed it off, but I could just sell the green beans. What do you think my margins would be on the green beans compared to going through all the hassle and selling it there? I mean, look at diamonds. Are diamonds rare? No, they're not. They're tightly controlled. I mean, you go to some countries, is it Namibia, or I can't remember which one it is, where the population's 2 million, and they actually mine more diamonds than they have people living there. The supply of diamonds is heavily regulated and controlled, but not the occurrence of diamonds.
Do they take it in and stop the supply so they can...
Yeah, restrict supply to increase the price. So, what am I trying to say to you? I chose a product that actually has a restricted supply. I'm not just trading coffee by volume. I'm looking at a product that can only be purchased at a particular point. Blue Mountain is a mountain in Jamaica, and coffee growing between 3,000 and 5,000 feet can only be called Blue Mountain. It has to come from this region. Anywhere else on the island is not considered Jamaica Blue Mountain. So by definition, the supply is limited. But the demand for it keeps growing. And as the demand for coffee grows in China, so will the demand for high-end coffee. And the supply of Blue Mountain, this mountain is not going to get any bigger, by the way. It's going to stay like this. And the supply of coffee will be relatively stable or declining. But the demand for luxury coffee in China will keep going up. That's why I asked if diamonds were actually rare. And my point being, no, they're not, but the supply is restricted. And so all I've got to do is ride this gravy train. Don't have to work too hard. Just hang in there and just let the gravy train ride. Yes?
Is that also the strategy you're telling here? You applied it to the caviar also? Because it's also like a little bit, how do you say?
Yeah,
a lot
I
of
think.
demand.
Yeah, I think that definitely the question originally was, what other parts of the world would you do business in? I'm thinking China has a really huge growing middle class, and they will start to develop an appetite for luxury goods. They already do. They already do. But I mean, what luxury goods? Have you ever been to Chinese dinner and had caviar there? No, I mean that's just rare. They don't sort of like serve it in hotels, or if they do, it's very rare. But I think there's going to be a demand for it at some point. It's just a matter of taste developing and evolving.
So you assume you have to target China as a consumer market for the coming future, because you can also do the coffee thing, but to Europe it's another story.
Yeah,
It's not that
appealing.
it's more easy to do it.
Yeah, I mean, maybe because I'm a strategist, I think, but you should have some sort of you really should have some sort of macroeconomic outlook when you look at a business and look at a region. You shouldn't just look at it in terms of, I mean, when we started off with the discussion that I sell coffee. But as we've actually talked, actually, I didn't just wake up and start selling coffee. There's a lot of stuff that's actually gone behind it. And now you see the reasoning behind why I do what I do. It's not just about, I can make a little bit of money here and arbitrage. It's actually, I'm going to sit down and have a macroeconomic outlook of the region you're actually thinking of selling into. Understand that the product you're selling actually has a restricted supply, and you have a huge economy that actually only 0.1% of the population drink coffee, and all it has to do is go to 2 or 3%, and it's just ticking over. We're not talking about creating a magical formula. We're talking about simple economics. And you look at that and you start to think to yourself, do you know what? Yeah. I mean, we started off with that picture of the supply chain. And I said, look at something you like, something you're really interested in, and at some point along that supply chain, there are going to be breaks. Find those breaks, and then when you found the break, and you can say, okay, well, what do I think of this, what do I think of that, and then start to extrapolate and have a macroeconomic outlook on the whole industry, and then ask yourself, justify why you want to go into this business. Don't just go into it without thinking. I'm talking to people who actually have an education. Either you're going to get a degree or you're on your second or third. I can have the conversation with you. I was talking to somebody who wanted to start a market stall and sell oranges. I'd have a different conversation with them. I wouldn't be going to so much detail about economics. I wouldn't. I'd just say, well, buy the oranges at this price and sell at that price. But I'm talking to intelligent people who obviously are making conscious decisions about becoming entrepreneurs rather than getting a banking job or whatever job you're thinking of. So let's start to really understand why you want to go into business. You're doing what other businesses do, you're just starting small. But I mean, businesses actually have, I think my time's almost up. Businesses actually have strategies, but you're just a small unit having a business strategy on your market, on your customers, on your supplies. And I'm thinking, when you write your business plan, you will have to go through this. I can tell you now because I spent time writing it, and I know why I do what I do, and I can justify it. And I didn't for my first two businesses. I didn't for my first two businesses. So it certainly is really helpful to write your business plan and, you know, count up and be standard. Be able to account for your decisions and for why you want to do what you want to do. And you're intelligent people. You should be able to do that.
Unfortunately, we are a good 45 minutes.
Whoa.
Nobody was super interested, so not up to me to get it. Is there any last question from you guys?
Maybe it's not a big question, but are you coming Friday?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Come on. Is that tomorrow you've got a...
list of names, I forgot to give it to you.
Yeah? Come on
Is there
Friday.
any last thing you want to tell them? Breaking.
It's tough doing it. And I think the only thing that separates people who succeed and those who fail is heart. At the end of the day, what it comes down to is don't give up. I've seen a lot of my friends give up and whatever. I don't know, I'm saying this and I may be the next one that gives up. But I know that what separates people in this business is heart. I don't care what you're doing. You just got to have the stomach to stay in it because it will get tough. But at least, you know, plan your way ahead. The most critical thing that I think anybody should do is have a good business plan. Not a smart one with loads of projections or whatever. Understand why you do what you do, and so you have to explain it. I've explained to you my 132-page business plan, and you know why I do what I do now. And it's simple because I understand why I do it. I'm convinced of it. And, you know, if I lose my way, I think I can try and find it back, but just have some heart. Good business plan, have some heart, you should be able to see it through. That's all. Thank you.